are live.
Oh my gosh, we're live.
You know how we do. We take a moment to share it to our page.
Yes, I'm going to try and do that now.
Mm-hmm. Good
I don't
evening.
see it though. I'm not seeing
Yeah.
it. I gotta find Karen Slack.
Yes. Hey, everybody.
There we go.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. How is
Come
everybody?
on in.
Come on into the room.
The upper room.
Okay.
All right, that's done.
Everybody's always faster than I am on that. Like what I'm sharing, you would think that I would know by now how to do it. Hey, y'all.
So literally number 19.
Literally number 19.
That's amazing.
It's like, I know. I think I'm going to celebrate on 25. I think that's what
All
I'm going to
right.
do on 25. But yes.
Cool. Let me see if I can get a little more light on the system.
Yes,
There
now.
we go. That's
All right. Good evening to the people. July. What's today?
July 23rd.
Can you believe it?
Yes.
Can you
Still
believe
in
it?
it.
Yes. Oh, Anthony McGlown. Hey, Anthony. Michael Priestley.
Hi, Michael.
Michael Bolton. Hey, Michael. Good evening. Patrick.
Kenny is in there.
In the house. In the house.
I'm gonna come a little further so I can get a little light. As much light as possible.
Yes. We are going to. Hi, Andy.
Hey, Andy.
Kenny.
Barbara and Maddox. We went to college together at the University of Akron.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, we did.
See, this is a small world.
It is.
Yes, Kenny, come on, White. It was not planned, right?
Yes. White and purple. She got the ears. I got the lip.
Listen, I had to represent for the Purple Robe series, honey.
Hey.
The queen of the pandemic entertainment. Yes. Barbara Maddox, hi. Alan Savada.
Very cool.
Hey, Leon Williams. Hey, Leon. Oh, that's my other friend, Leon. Oh, my goodness. Everybody's coming in.
Yeah.
Chantal. Hey, Chantal.
Hey.
Yes, Quee. Hey, Quita.
Hey, Quita.
Yes. Y'all showed up for the queen, honey.
They showed up for you.
No, for you, honey. They showed up for the queen. Yes. All right, we got a toast.
Oh.
You forgot your drink.
I forgot my drink.
You got to go get your drink. Go get your drink.
I'll go get my drink. Hold on. I'll go get my drink.
She forgot her drink. We were trying to get all this air conditioning going because it's so hot. Of course, everybody knows it's 90,000 degrees outside. Hey, Matt, how are you? Okay, you have to tell me if that's how I pronounce your name. You have to tell me. Hey, Sharicia, Stephanie, how you doing? Good afternoon, Antonio. I think you need to turn down your computer.
My husband, yes, I'm sorry. My husband's bringing me a drink, so give me.
Okay, all right, that's right.
Like you get back to it.
Yes.
My hair.
You gotta have staff, honey. Staff.
Yeah, you gotta have staff.
What'd you do today, Nicole?
I took my son to get his retainer put back in his mouth. Of course, being a boy, they come out all the time. So he got that glued back in and did some Zoom calls and made some videos for recital that I'm doing and everything, speaking but not singing. But that's I had to do a script, so that made it easy. I didn't have to warm up today.
I love that.
The wine is here.
Oh boy!
You can leave it here just in case. So there you go.
All right. So cheer. What are we cheersing to, Mother?
We are cheersing to number 19 of the Kiki Konversations. To many more.
To many more. Yes, Diva. Cheers.
Oh, somebody brought this for my birthday and I hadn't had a chance to drink it yet. So
it's good.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you, Jackie. Yes, everybody. Nathan, Emma, my sister from Canada.
Oh, nice.
Good to see everybody. Yes. So I have to say, listen, I have known of Nicole Heaston Lane for many years. This
Yes.
diva is accomplished. And I'm so proud to call her my sister, my friend. And we've gotten much closer over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I have always been a fan. Let me just tell you all the places this diva has sung, honey. The Metropolitan Opera, Houston Grand Opera, San Francisco, Dallas, Washington National, Los Angeles Opera, Dresden, Deutsche Oper am Rhein in Dusseldorf, Glyndebourne, I mean, the Royal Danish Opera, Dresden. The list goes on and on, honey. And then all of the symphonies and all of the stages you have graced, all of the awards that you've gotten, and all of the opportunities, all the roles that you've sung throughout your career. I'm honored to know you. I'm honored to call you my sister, my friend, not just for your accomplishments, but for the beauty, your spirit, your graciousness, your tenacity. You know, you're striving for excellence all the time, and you push other people.
Yes, I do.
All the time. But so, I mean, thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, I am excited to be here. I mean, Karen, the very first time I heard Karen was when she was doing the Met Opera competition. And I was coming to see Laquita because I knew her because she was in the Houston Opera Studio. And there was this other Black girl who was singing. And the thing is, Morgan heard you because Morgan remember she was in a stroller. Stan was there. We were all, so Stan has met you because you were there that night. And you sang so beautifully and sang Depuis le jour, and it just totally took me there. And I was like, oh, I'm going to watch this girl. But I didn't get a chance to be your friend until recently. And I'm so blessed to have this friendship now. And the way you support other singers, and it really, like you say, me striving for excellence, you do exactly the same. And I just love it. So I'm very thrilled. Oh, wait, some just beat.
Somebody's dinging.
I got turn stuff off.
Yes.
But thank you, though.
You're very welcome.
Somebody was saying I looked pretty, so I was like, thank you, girl.
Now, people. Yes. So tell us where you're from and how you came to opera.
Oh, okay. I'm from Chicago, Illinois, but I currently live in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
I started singing when I was a little girl because my mother had put me in piano lessons because she was a concert pianist. I couldn't play to save my life, but my piano teacher was like, she plays, when she plays, she sings. So you should probably put her in a choir. So she put me in the Chicago Children's Choir, and I went kicking and screaming. I was so afraid that I was going to make a fool of myself because they sounded so good and I didn't think I could sing. Mm-hmm. But when I got there, I found my people. I found that I loved to sing. I didn't love classical music because I grew up listening to, Earth, Wind and Fire and Stevie Wonder. That was, being played in my house, that and, Bob Marley. Mm-hmm. But once I got to high school, Lena McLean, the great Lena McLean.
Please tell the people about Miss McLean.
Mrs. McLean, you were taught at Kenwood Academy. And at Kenwood Academy, you would have thought that it was a conservatory of music. The people who came up out of that school, Mark Rucker, Jodita Lattimore, R. Kelly, Megan Potato. But, it was a lot of good singers, and they all were reared by Mrs. McLean. Mm-hmm. But she made everybody sing classical music regardless of whatever you wanted to sing. I thought I would be an attorney or I wanted to be a pop singer. And she looked at me and said, no, you are an opera singer. And I was like, Black folks don't sing opera. And she said, turn around. And I had never noticed the posters hanging in the back of her room. There were posters of Matilda Dobbs, Antine Price, and Shirley Verrett. She said, they are Black opera singers. You are a Black opera singer. Because she found herself to be, she was a pastor as well. She was a reverend. Mm-hmm. She said God always spoke to her and told her the truth. And she said, you're an opera singer. And so I was like, okay. And from that point on, I did some competitions and I won. And I was like, well, let me go to college and see what this is about. Mm-hmm. It was great. The first day I went to college, and I felt so out of place, with theory and all these things, because I love to sing, but I wasn't a musician yet.
Yes.
And I'll never forget my very first opera, Traviata. And I was like in a green and black gown with a feather in my hair. And I was like, you mean somebody's going to pay me to dress up and sing? Bet. This is what I'm doing.
I love it. I know. That's why people say, "Oh, you always dress up so beautiful." When you do the show, I'm like, "This is like my costume. This is a part of like."
It is a beautiful costume.
Costume, yes. I love that part of what we do.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So where'd you go to school? Where'd you go to college?
I went to the University of Akron, of all places, where I say Barbara Maddox is from as well. And I got there because they came to my high school, and they came with a traveling choir. And Karen Clark Green, now she's on Facebook. This woman was the most stunning, still is, the most stunning Black woman I'd ever seen. And when she opened her mouth to sing, it was like spun gold. And Miss McLean looked at me, she said, "You're going to that school." But I was already set to study with William Warfield at the University of Illinois.
William Warfield?
That was what I was going to do. But they begged me to come and at least give it a chance for an audition. And I went, and it was one of those things where it just clicked. I just sat there. I was like, I've always known you have to follow your gut. And with my teacher, Dr. Mary Schiller, I felt at home with her. I felt at home on the campus. And it turned out to be the best thing for me because that woman taught me technique that I use today. So that still sound like I did when I was, youthful wise,
right?
When I was with her, in college.
What did she talk about? Like what type of things did she talk about?
She talked about intercostal breathing. That was her main thing. We broke down everything, and it just came to just literally at first just trying to get that soft palate high, make sure that I used to trip out because she said, "Touch my back." And she said, "Watch me breathe." And my hands would go from here to here.
Wow.
And it would stay there, but it didn't feel tense. And she said, "You're going to do this. And this is how you keep your posture while keeping the air flowing up." That was her whole trick. And honey, it has served me well.
Yes, that's why you sing so beautifully and still sound youthful and fresh, and of course we all know that great technique allows you to be the artist.
Yes.
To reach that potential, right?
You don't have to worry about it.
Exactly. So you get your undergrad at Akron, and then you go
to Cincinnati Conservatory of Music.
All right, CCM.
Yes. And it was funny because, I loved the University of Akron. I had a great teacher, but no one believed really that I could get into CCM.
Why?
I had won every competition they sent me to, every Nats competition, anything, because no one from Akron had gone. And so it was like, but I was like, I'm just going to try it out. And I sure enough got in, and I got in without anybody writing me a letter of recommendation.
Okay. Well, that's her.
Yeah.
All right.
I found out my letter of recommendation must have got lost in the mail once I got to Cincinnati.
Okay. Understood. You didn't need one. That throat was that throat was the thing. Like, that's it. That was your ticket. Yeah. So when you were there, did you sing opera roles? Like, because so many people graduate from these conservatories and these schools with no experience stage wise.
I was one of those people.
Oh,
yes. Once I got there, I had wanted to study with Barbara Hahn. And this is the thing where I always tell young singers, I was blessed that God guided me where I needed to be because I was stupid. I was following the name. I was following the school. And my heart told me to go to University of Akron and study with Dr. Schiller, and I did that. But when I went to CCM, I was like, oh, Barbara Hahn's the famous name. I want to study with her. And Patricia Berlin, who has passed on, she was head of the voice faculty. And she called me and she said, Nicole, I'm sorry, but your first choice and your second choice have chosen their people for their studio. And I was hurt. And I was like, okay. And she said, but I would love to teach you. And I was like, okay, I guess that's whatever choice I have. I'm going to the school.
Right.
And it was the best choice ever because where Dr. Schiller had left off with foundation and learning how to breathe, she was teaching me how to be an artist, how to understand the text, how to sing with great legato and beauty while also saying something.
Yes.
And it was the next level that I needed. And she turned out to be the best thing ever. And when I left Cincinnati, I really didn't get any roles while I was there. I was Mrs. Hayes and Susanna. But I had a great time. I enjoyed myself. But to me, it was all about me learning.
Yes.
But when it came time to audition for young artist programs, I went, and I was the only person that got into an artist program. So I said goodbye. And Barbara Hahn actually looked at me one day. She never spoke to me the entire time, but she spoke to me at the end when I was about to leave. She just walked up to me. She said, "Good for you for getting out." And I was like, "Wow, okay, thank you."
I didn't even know you knew I existed, but
I did not think she knew my name.
Right, but she did, and you didn't. Probably be better for you that you didn't know that she was
very much so. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, I think that's such a lesson in that. In there is that the singing, the technique, the study is the single most important part of your development that early in your life.
Yeah.
Everybody goes to these schools, and they're everything else is important, and it's better to if you graduate at least with technique and no roles. That's the best gift.
And honestly, at the University of Akron, it was always, well, she's a senior, so she needs to get the role. She's a graduate student, she needs to get the role. And it kept kicking the can down the aisle for me, where I never got a chance. Like my last year, they were doing Notte di Figaro. I was going to do Susanna. I just knew that, because I'd been pushed over and couldn't do Pamina on the main stage. I had to do like a small little version of it. And they told me, well, no, there's a graduate student and it's her last year. And I'm like, it's my last year. I said, you gave it to a senior 2 years ago. But I was like, whatever. And I said, well, couldn't you at least give me Barbarina? And he was honest. He said, you'll never sing Barbarina, which I haven't.
Okay.
And he said, you'll never sing it. So I spent my senior year watching from the audience.
And what was that? How did that make you feel? Like, what did that, or did it make you, like, how did it make you feel?
It spurred me on, because I'm a person that at that point, I knew what I was worth. The fact that they did not accept it or want to say what it was, I'm like, I'm going to leave this and keep on going, because they always chose somebody else over me. And it was usually, somebody that didn't look like me. And I just had to realize, I was like, my path will come. I always tell people that he's given me this voice. He's given you this voice. He has a place for you. It may not be this place right now. You just got to keep doing until your place becomes available.
Yes.
You just, because there's a place where he wouldn't give you this gift if he did not expect you to use it. And my whole thing is, I love the shade. I love looking back and be like, oh, remember you didn't put me in anything? Yeah.
Okay, because read the resume, honey. I've been everywhere doing the yes. Cheers. I hope y'all got your drinks, because I feel like it's gonna be that kind of night. It's gonna be that kind of night tonight. Yes. So we're gonna say hi to some people. Hey, Tiffany.
Hey, Tiff and Bernard and Antonio. I sang a Messiah with Antonio in Chicago. That's where I first met that young man.
Really?
Yeah. Beautiful face.
Hi, Antonio. Thanks for coming by. Always. Yes. Kyle, Kristen Sampson, one of my beautiful singing sisters. That woman has a throat, honey.
Does she?
Yes. Tim Long. Hey, Tim.
Hey.
Yeah.
Arlene and the twins.
Yes, the twins. Yeah, Bernard. Okay. Dante. Hey, Dante. So, and Finland, my beautiful sister friend. Angela Brown. Come on, Brown.
What's up, Angela? Angela, you scared me yesterday, girl. You were so fierce with the décolletage all covered up with the beautifulness. You served yesterday. Thank you very much. I appreciate all of that.
Yes, you were ready
to come on today.
She was ready to step right onto the stage of Aida. Okay,
yes.
Girl, she's singing. She can sing Aida, honey. Y'all better call Diva Brown. Okay, she's ready. She has her costume and everything.
Yes.
So you leave CCM and you go to the Houston. Well, what happens after that?
No. I left there and I got into the Houston Opera Studio. And that was a huge thing, because like I said, nobody else from my school had got in. And again, completely ignorant of what I'm getting myself into. I did know at this time that teachers were more important than wherever I was going to be. And I lucked into Stephen Smith. He was okay. I turned off my stuff. Why is this sleeping?
Listen, they are like ding, ding, ding.
Okay, let me see if I can click on this.
Okay, that's
options from Ooh from Doc. Okay.
Hi, Markham. Hey, how are you? Yes.
And luckily they were doing. I was telling some young singers today. I said, not always the best singers. There are a lot of great singers who are not in YAP programs.
Mm-hmm.
And really a lot of things that go into a YAP program go into what shows are they doing next season. So they're looking for people who are coachable, who have great voices, and then will also be able to cover or do small roles in the operas that are coming up that season. Mm-hmm. So that year they were doing Romeo and Juliet. And I was like, wow, I said, I get to use my French because I learned French when I was in 3rd grade. So I was like, I get to do this. And it was the first thing I had to do. And would you believe I got there and Marcello Giordani was singing Romeo.
Wow.
And Marino Flynn was singing Juliet.
Oh my God.
She was beat.
Yeah.
But she had a back issue. And it was funny. I'll tell you, Marcello Giordani, I went up to him the very first rehearsal and I was like, hello, Mr. Giordani. I said, I met you back in Akron when you made your debuts, doing a recital. And he was like, oh, he was so charming and so sweet. He completely forgot my name right after I walked away.
Okay.
I was a non-issue.
Uh-huh.
But Maureen had a back issue from a different production and she was out for like 2 weeks. And they called and said, Nicole, you're going to have to do all the rehearsals. And I was like, straight up. So I don't never go any place not prepared. So I was ready. So I sat in that rehearsal and I said, I still remember that. I ain't sang that in years, but I sang that and he turned around and went, he was like, and he came up, he was like, ciao, I'm Marcello Giordani. I was like, yeah, we've met.
We met, right. It's all of a sudden I'm somebody now.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But as a young singer, to get a chance to do 2 weeks of that rehearsal. Now, granted, I had my own show. I did my own, we had little studio matinees. Mm-hmm. But it was great to get a chance to just be thrown into that in Houston. It was a great experience.
Yes. And so how many roles did you sing in Houston? I mean, in the studio, unlike many other big house programs, you don't get the experience to sing the role on the stage.
No, I think my first year I did Saints Settlement in 4 Saints and 3 Acts, mm-hmm. which is the show I met my husband on.
Yeah. What was Stan doing?
I invited Stan because my sister-in-law kept begging me to meet her brother-in-law.
Okay.
So my future sister-in-law at that point. So I invited him, and literally he was sitting. It was a Robert Wilson production. It was beautiful with lights. It didn't make any sense. But my husband, I could see him in the second row like this. He was first opera. He didn't know what he was getting into, but he stayed, and he fell for me afterwards. But anyway,
he liked you. He
did. Uh-huh. I did Romeo and Juliet. I did that. I did a role in Ricky Ann Gordon's opera, Tibetan Book of the Dead.
Uh-huh.
Because when we were in the studio, the studio always did a new composer's piece. So mm-hmm. we always did a new piece that was written for us. Mm-hmm. Then I sang Jackie O, which was another new piece.
Controversial as well to have a Black woman singing Jackie O.
Oh, Black woman singing Jackie O, a Black man, Eric Owens singing Aristotle Onassis, and Jonita Lattimore, a Black woman singing Liz Taylor. People walked out. But that's all right.
That's all right. Mm-hmm.
It was what it was. So,
mm-hmm.
But I did a lot. But I think my last year, it was my last year. We did Magic Flute, mm-hmm. and in the Magic Flute, I think there was like a recession or something was going on. So they cast everyone in the studio in this Magic Flute, and that to me was unheard of to have an entire studio doing a full main stage production.
Yes.
And the only singers who were not in the studio were Ray Berry, who used to be in the studio, who sang Tamino.
Uh-huh.
And Mary Dunleavy, who did the Queen of the Night, but she had won first place in the McCullum competition.
Right.
We were all, Joyce DiDonato was the second lady. Stephanie Novacek. Eric was was Zorastro. I was Pamina. But we killed it, honey. Our reviews were better than the Boris Godunov that was going on alongside of us. That's worth a sip too.
Yes, that's worth a sip. Mm-hmm.
We took note of that. at the time and still today.
Yes.
So I had good stuff while I was in the studio. I had a good time.
Yeah, and amazing singers. I mean, tell the people who came through, because Houston always has such an amazing track record of fantastic singers.
I mean, Anna Maria Martinez, she was there right before I got in. Ray Berry, as I said, Jill Grove. When I was in the studio, it was myself, Jonita Lattimore, Carol Anderson, who is now the principal coach at Utah Opera, Eric Owens, Frank Hernandez. He was fantastic. My late friend, Gabrielle Gonzalez, John McVeigh, Beth Clayton.
Yes, Beth. Yes,
Beth is life.
Fantastic. Yes.
And then my second year, we got Joyce DiDonato and Stephanie Novacek took some of the mezzo places. So
sensational.
Yeah, great.
Sensational. Who was talking to Stephanie last week? And she, to hear her class of like, Met People and Wolf Trap and all those guys, to see that you guys are still, serving art and just doing the whole thing is just incredible.
Yeah,
it's incredible. So you go to Houston, you have these experiences, and so so many people feel like, well, I guess the industry has set itself up where you have to like go to a fancy school, or you go to a big house program, and then all of a sudden, you get a big agent or whatever, or win a big competition, and then you launch out in a career. And so, when you started and when I started, it was kind of like that was the thing, and becoming the only way that anyone was ever really, So talk about what it was like to go from studio and go into the industry.
Well, it was incredibly easy in a way because, I couldn't understand what other people were going through because I was going through my own experience. When I was in the Houston Opera Studio, you were there with, stars who were coming in to do productions, and their agents would come to hear them. And Galetha Nichols would set it up so we would sing for them. So I sang for everybody. I sang for all the agents. And that's not an opportunity that's given to people, not necessarily, like if they're in New York, they have to like hound and call and say, hey, can I get an audition with you? Will you see me? And it's like, you got to have somebody that either speaks up for you or, it was tough going. So for me, I found an agent my very first year when I was in the studio.
Wow.
And I started getting work. What also helped is when I sang for the McCullum competition, they were doing Dido and Aeneas and Porgy and Bess at the opera while I was there. And Mark Minkowski, who was like the new it man, and in Baroque music, he heard me and really liked me. And so my very first year in the studio, I had professional work. I was doing recordings with Deutsche Grammophon. He was taking me on tour with him. I was like, so I was out there I was doing it while I was even in the studio, which was very cool.
Wow. And rare.
Very rare. Very rare. That was a conductor hearing me. And that's what I'm saying. Being in a studio program or at a competition, people hear you and they get that chance you get that shine put on you from it. So
yes, exactly. And I mean, everything is so different now, and it's going to be a different, world and a different way, which in many ways is excellent.
Yeah.
But also in many ways very scary for the industry, because for so long we've sustained ourselves one way, and I always feel like the big model, the smaller companies have had to figure out, how to survive. But the young artists, like, how are we training 21st century singers, in this classical world? It's going to be very important after COVID,
Oh, I agree. It's going to be a different world.
And so, here you are, this young lady from Chicago, and you've gone through and you're going, through Houston Grand Opera program, and you're being exposed, and you get out into the world, like the real world, international, world. And so, talk a little bit about that, because, as although the industry is always been kind in a way to Black women, people don't ever talk about really what it's like to be in a career, to be on the road, to be away,
in the beginning, it was very hard. I mean, I loved singing. I loved going out and doing work, But it was a lot of my work at first was in Europe, and a lot of places you go in Europe, I would be the only, I'll say, Black person around. Now you would see a lot of Africans, but me looking the way I looked was different to everyone. And it was different for me because I didn't have anybody around me that looked like me. And when
Black
you're
Americans, right.
You know, I grew up in Chicago. You know, I grew up in a Black church. I grew up with all my Black family hanging around me. Now, granted, I did go to a private school, but even there, we had a large group of Black people. So luckily, because I had that in my life, I was able to adapt to being the only, but it was still weird because I'd never been the only before. And you go and you leave your family and you miss graduations. I miss my sister's high school and college graduation because I was off working and singing. And it broke my heart to have to do it all the time. But I was like, if I want this career to happen, it has to happen. You know, and she was understanding of it, but you miss a lot.
Yes.
And you're alone. I mean, I gotta say, like young singers, I can't hear nothing y'all say about being that lonely because y'all got internet. Literally, I remember my husband and I faxing each other. That's how we stayed in touch with each other back then. It was insane.
I know people don't understand those $3,000 phone bills,
Ooh, the AT&T calling card.
AT&T, the calling card. Yes, see, they don't even understand like we got FaceTime and all this stuff, but like none of that stuff existed.
None of it.
Before. And you can't really complain now or be out of touch with people.
Yeah, it's much better. I have to say it is better.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, Tiffany saying she's like Tiffany was in the studio. Tiffany Jackson.
Tiffany was in the studio.
Nita was also. Yeah, Eric Green. Hey, Eric. As I say hi to people. John, thank you, John. Russell, Sue. Hi, Sue. How you doing? Sue Dixon. Yes. So you're in the career, and things are happening for you, and you're singing in all these amazing places. You know, talk about some of the transitions. Talk about like some of the bumps that you've had. Talk about when you're on this high, like, did you have a point in your career where things just like the bottom fell out at all?
Oh, yes, but it was much later. It was much later. Oh God, yeah, I'm about to get into it. Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna get into it.
We're gonna get to it. Pretty much all of my youth career, I never got a bad review. I was always sought after. I had won all the awards, all that. Everything was butter. And then there was a point where I did an audition, and Paul Moe said to me, Nicole, it's time for you to stop singing Susanna. You need to start singing the Countess. The voice is mature. You're ready. And I was like, you ready? You sure? Because I mean, I've always been someone that's protected my voice, but I didn't want to protect it and keep it in a box. I wanted it to go naturally where it was going to go. And with both of my children, my voice expanded and got more warmth to it, where it wasn't necessarily an Ina and Etta voice anymore. And I did an opera, and I'm not going to say where it was, but I did an opera. I did Notte di Figaro. And it was the first time I ever got the worst reviews of my life. And it was something that literally crippled me and stayed with me until just like recently.
Wow.
What had happened was that in my contract, it didn't state that we would be singing Marriage of Figaro at 4:30 and not 4:40. Now 4:15 is a full half step down. 4:30 is a quarter tone. So when at this point, I had sang Susanna like a billion times. I can I can pop those. I know those notes like this.
Right.
So when I was in rehearsal, something didn't feel right, especially in that A Tutti Contenti. But I'm sitting there looking at the young girl who's singing Susanna. I'm like, man, she's flat, but I'm just like, and I'm thinking this. It was a 6-week rehearsal period. But no one said anything to me. I had rehearsed that role for a year and a half, getting the Countess into my voice. And Dove Sona is all this passaggio singing.
Yes, right.
I had my placement right. I was ready to go. I knew those pitches in my head. And at the final dress rehearsal, the assistant conductor comes and he says, Nicole, you're singing sharp in a few places. I was like, oh, where? And he just kept marking out places. I was like, wait a second. I said, well, how long has it been like this? He said, well, kind of since the beginning. And I looked at him. I said, we've been here 6 weeks. And you're telling me this today? And I sat there and I kept trying to like sing lower and lower while I was singing.
Yes.
I had no idea. And then I was told that we were doing, I was like, that's why all this feels odd to me. It's not at 440.
And no one told you for 6 weeks.
No one told me. In every review. And the thing is, yes, I've sang flat in my life, but I've never sang sharp.
Right.
And I remember we took a concert version of that opera to Paris. And the head of the Paris Opera was going to be there that night. And I was just like, why of all times am I singing this here? But when we did it where I was standing in the center of the orchestra. So when I was in the center of the orchestra, I could tune to them.
Yes.
So I tuned to them. And I'll never forget that guy. He came up to me. He's like, it was beautiful. And it was in tune. And I was like, the gossip mill had hit the streets. It was a wrap. I was like, I'll never sing Countess again. And it took years for a Countess to come my way again. And when it did, I had this whole, how's it sound? What's it sound? It fucked with my mind, you know?
Right. But it has somebody had told you.
Oh, if somebody had told me earlier, I would have
rehearsal.
Yeah. But it taught me a lesson. Because then I think 2 years later or next year later, I went to Glyndebourne and I was doing Don Giovanni. And I said, what are we doing it at? And they said, we're doing it 440. I was like, okay. But then when I went the next time, we were doing Finta Giardiniera. And they said, we're doing it at 430. I was like, good. Thanks for letting me know. I bought a keyboard that I can transpose to any key. And I carried this big old 10-pound keyboard to every single coaching. I took it all the way down to HGO and I would give it to Richard. We'd be at his house, wherever. I carried that piano everywhere. And that's how I rehearsed that piece. And when I went, I was perfectly in tune. I used to let them do that. And so now it's taught me, even if it's Figaro, if it's, Don Giovanni, somebody may want to do it at classical pitch at 430. Be prepared. But I'll tell you this. If anyone ever asked me to come sing a Don Giovanni or a Marriage to Figaro, my answer will be no if it's at 430. Because this is my body at 440. I don't care who it is. Right. I'm like, thank you, but no thank you. And that gave me the grace and the wisdom to know to say no.
Yes, the lesson. That is the lesson.
It was a lesson.
Yeah. It had to happen, but yes, like,
yeah,
that was a gigantic lesson and a lesson in, demanding and commanding what it is that you need as an artist.
Yes.
When you're young, you don't know. When you're young, first of all, you don't know what you need. Second of all, you never want to say no. You always want to please.
Exactly.
But
for me, it was weird because it was Figaro. I was like, I had done so many Figaros. No one had ever done it, not at 440. So I didn't even get to ask.
Yes.
And it was a nightmare. It was a train wreck. I was unhappy the entire time. And I was so angry at the conductor for not having the balls to tell me that I was out of tune. I was like, so you sat there and listened to me out of tune for 6 weeks and said nothing?
Said nothing. Like, who that defeats the entire purpose of music making.
Exactly. But I've seen it happen too. I've been in productions where somebody is singing really off and really bad, and everybody's like, "It's beautiful." But it taught me to trust nobody. I was like, I can't trust. And I tell people all the time. When I was in San Francisco, I told John Churchwell, I was like, I'm not a sensitive singer. Tell me if it ain't right. You ain't got to sit there and pat my back and tell me. You tell me when it ain't right. I want to know. I said, I'm here to work and get out good product. If you're going to sit there and stroke my back, send me home.
Send me home. Exactly. Please don't let me go out there looking crazy and sounding like a fool.
No, and talk about me behind my back. That ain't me.
Nope. We're not going to do that. We ain't doing that no more. That's dead. That's over. No, I always target in on somebody in the music staff that I feel like would tell me the truth. And I read people pretty well, but if there are people you definitely can't trust, but I'm like, I make friends with people. And in every department, in the costume department, makeup department, like I need somebody to be like, girl, no. I mean, it's strategic in a way because it's only you out there.
Yes.
And
they feel, and I know that singers, we're full of ego, we're full of insecurities. I get all that. And so I know sometimes people don't know how to deal with people head on. As long as you're not rude to me or mean, I'm all about you telling me the straight up truth. Exactly. I can't fix it if I don't know it's not wrong.
You can't fix it if you don't know it's wrong. Exactly. So was that the only thing in your career you felt like was the thing, or
that to me was the big thing. The other thing was just like early on in my career, not being able to be who I wanted to be.
Please talk about that.
There were 2 incidences when I was a young singer, and one was when I went to the Domingo competition, and I was doing that, and it was in Bordeaux, and I was there, and I was singing with Lynette Tapia and John Osborne and Eric Owens, Marianne McCormick, Osiel Garza Onelas, Osiel Garza Onelas. I love his name so much.
What a phenomenal name and a phenomenal.
Oh God, yes. But I was singing Norina's aria, and we had a rehearsal, and I sang this aria to get into the competition. And when we started doing it, I personally think of Norina as a broad. I don't see her as some. Nobody laughs like that. So that wasn't me. I was like, and Domingo was like, no. And I was like, but I don't feel she sings it that way. He's like, no, it's not classy. It's not this. And so I was like, okay. And so I sang it the way he wanted. I didn't win. Wasn't guaranteed I wasn't going to win. But you know what? I want to lose on my terms. I want to say I put myself out there, and either you liked it or you didn't. And that was the first instance. And then the second was when I did the Carter Singer of the World competition. And that was cold because I auditioned for them in London. They chose me to represent the United States. I had a form. They said, you need to pick out 3 separate programs, and broke it all down. It needs to be art, song, arias, anything that shows you off best. Well, at that point in my career, I was singing nothing but bel canto and Mozart. So I put my stuff down, and then weeks later, I get it took a lot of time to figure out what was going to be really good together. And they emailed me back and said, yeah, sorry, you can't do any of this because Joan Sutherland is going to be one of the judges, and you can't sing her music in front of her. And I was like, well, then what do I sing? You know what I sing. I sang it for you. I'm like, okay.
Get here, right.
Get it to this point. And so I had to reschedule all of my repertoire and sing things that weren't what showed Nicole who Nicole was. So I pulled it together, but I kept one aria, Tornami a Vaguejar from Alcina. And when I got to Wales, I had my day, and I'm sorry, I sang damn well that day. I'm not even gonna play. I got a recording of it. I sang.
I know you did, yes.
And I looked good. I had a beautiful little yellow dress on, had my hair up in a chignon. I was classy. I was everything,
Right, of course. You were ready. I'm the winner. Right.
I'm the winner. But I sang Tornami a Vaguejar first. And after the competition, you get a chance to talk to your judges and get feedback. I didn't make it on, but when I went, the first judge I sat in front of was the German judge. And he says, I didn't pay attention to anything you sang. The minute I saw that you were singing Tornami a Vaguejar in front of Joan, I turned you off. And then he just sat there. I sang for 20 minutes and he had nothing to say to me. I sat there as a young singer and I was like, okay. And then I went to the next person. And they're like, that was really bold of you to sing Tornami. I'm like, it's a freaking aria. She didn't write it. I was like, I was just so upset. The only person that really didn't give me flack was Marilyn Horn. And she supported me. And the next day, Marilyn's never heard me say this in public, so I hope she ain't on here. The next day, they called and said, we would like for you to come and sing in a masterclass live on television. And we would like you to sing Tornami a Vaguejar with Joan Sutherland as your adjudicator. And I was like, okay. And I knew when I hung up the phone, I wasn't doing that.
Right.
So the next morning I woke up and I said, I have a splitting headache. It is a migraine. I am not going to be able to sing today. And they were like, okay. Marilyn Horn caught me in the atrium downstairs and put the beat down, crack down on me. She was like, what is wrong with you? Why weren't you singing today? And I said, I'm sorry, I had a really bad headache. I just didn't think I would be able to produce today. She said, well, if you were doing a performance somewhere, wouldn't you pull yourself together? I said, oh yeah, for money, yes. I was like, I would have done that. And as soon as I walked away, I was like, and Marilyn Horn hates me now. It was closed. I felt like, oh, but I had to be honest with her and I was like, honest as I could, because I didn't want to tell her that I was afraid of going on live television that was broadcast all across Europe, having Joan Sutherland read me, because that was one thing. Everybody was like, oh, Joan don't play.
Right.
She will read in front of people. And I was like, I'm not doing that. I said, I'm already in a fragile state. I'm lost. Y'all, I had somebody telling me that I wasn't worthy to sing Torna Mi Avake Job. And now you want me to sing it in front of Joan? No, I got a lot of cojones, but I didn't have that much. But I had enough to say I ain't doing it.
Yes, right. Right. You have to protect yourself.
I had to protect myself. And luckily Marilyn did forgive me, and she hired me to do a lot of concerts with her song series, and I sang at Carnegie Hall. And so when she called me to be with that, I was like, oh, I didn't burn that bridge. Yeah.
Right. And that's another lesson. Like, standing up for yourself doesn't always mean that something's going to be taken away from you.
Very true.
You know?
Very true. Yeah.
Yeah. And to stand up to Marilyn Horn, I mean, I had a sort of similar situation at the Caballé competition, you know, and also the Met competition as well, where I was asked to change my list to something that's sung 5 months before. And so, you know, I did stand up for myself, but I wish I did. You know, the Caballé competition I did, and Montserrat called me on the phone and begged me to sing the aria that I refused to sing. And I was like, Caballé is calling me on the phone. I'm gonna sing a happy birthday, whatever she asked me to sing. Okay, I'm gonna sing. I mean, and subsequently, I didn't win that. I was second place in that competition, but all night she loved up on me so hard, you know, because I did the thing, you know. But I wished in that competition I had stood up for myself and said, no, I'm gonna sing what I'm prepared to sing.
Yeah,
you know, during this time, but whatever. I got a Met debut. I've been on the stage, whatever. It's all
there. You go. It worked out.
Exactly. You know, so I wanted to talk about your surgery, because a lot of people don't know about, you know, what that was like for you. So
okay, I'm gonna show y'all right here. It's funny, people see this and they think it's a headband sometimes. It's very bizarre. A skin headband, okay. Back in 2009, every time I was going to bed, I kept hearing this whooshing sound in my right ear. And it was annoying to me. I couldn't figure out why I kept hearing this. And I went to my doctor, and you know, as a singer, there's certain things you don't want to hear. You don't want to hear that your hearing is going, and you don't want to hear that your voice is going.
Yes.
Those are two things you don't want. And when I went in, she was like, I don't see anything wrong with your ear. Let's check your hearing. And I'm like, please let me not be going deaf. Please don't let me go deaf. She came back and said, no, you're good. She said, your hearing is great, but I still don't know why you're hearing the sound. There's no reason for it. And so she said, I'm going to send you in for an MRI. And I'm like, okay, because I'm young, I don't have any issues.
Right.
And right before I was going to that Marriage of Figaro that I was telling you about earlier, I was leaving like 2-3 days before. And I went to the doctor's office, and she just looked so serious. And she said, Nicole, you have a mass right here on your MRI. And she said, you can't go to France. You need to go to a neurologist and get yourself checked out. She said, it's a mass. And I'm like freaking out, and I'm like, okay. And I'm a person that worries very much so. And she's like, I wouldn't go to Europe. She said, if you're gonna go, take these MRIs with you, see if you can get checked out there. And my husband talked me off a cliff, and he said, Nicole, this was looked at by, you know, a technician. It says it's possibly incidental. So which means that it may not be anything bad, or it may be, they don't know. He said, let me find the best doctor in the country. You do you, because it was my first countess. He's like, you do you. When you get back, I will have the best doctor in the world. And luckily, one of the best doctors was Dr. Harper here in Houston. And I went and saw him, and he saw it, and he said it's an O-spot meningioma, and it is usually benign. What's interesting about this is that so many women have an O-spot meningioma, and they never know they have it until they're much, much older. It's a tumor that'll grow, and the more it grows, you get a little wobbly, you can get a little more confused, and you lose your sense of smell. So people always think it's just a woman getting old. Like Mary Tyler Moore found out she had it when she was like almost 80.
Wow.
You can have it and it'll just grow and grow. So he told me, he said, Nicole, we're going to measure it. If it looks like it's fine, we'll leave it until you're in your 60s or 70s, you know, and just go with it. Or if it starts to grow, we'll take it. The next year I went in for the follow-up. He turned around in that chair quick. He said, we're taking this. It's doubled in size. We got to go. And so I was like, okay. And I'm still like, okay. And then he said, now we're going to shave your head from here to here. And then everything turned into Charlie Brown teacher. It was like, wah, 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 wah. Because I
your hair, right.
My husband was looking at me like, you're caring about your hair? Like you have a tumor in your head. And so the thing that was so great about this surgery was the fact it taught me about God's plan. Because that year I had auditioned for something that I wanted so badly. And I didn't get it. And I was bummed out about it. And my husband was always telling me, he's like, Nicole, God will put you where you need to be. If you are not working, you're meant to be here right with us. And when he told me I needed surgery, that time was blank. And it was the exact same time that I was supposed to have been at that gig if I had gotten it. And I sat there and I was like, God wanted me to have this surgery. He knew where I was supposed to be.
Yes. Amen. Amen.
It was it calmed my career like nothing else. It made me look at everything of like, oh, I didn't get that. Oh, something else comes. Because you know what? It usually does.
It sure does. It sure does.
And calling my agent every 5 seconds. It wasn't doing nothing but bugging them and stressing me out. I'm supposed to be where I'm supposed to be. So I had that time. I came home. It was Christmas time. I had Christmas in my house. I painted my house afterwards to keep my mind off the fact that I was going into surgery for a month.
Yes.
They removed it, and luckily my doctor was hardcore. He had me walking like right after surgery, and I recovered. And it was time for me to go back to work. I had this much hair on my head.
I remember, yeah.
Right in the front, looking crazy. But I went right back to work. And it was right in the right time because God knew I was supposed to have that surgery. I didn't know I was supposed to have it.
Right, of course.
So I had to take myself out of that.
That is amazing. That's amazing. And so you speak about your beautiful family, and so many of us have gotten to know them. We feel like we know them. We've seen the kids grow up, and we got to see Stan, particularly during this COVID time. But please talk about your beautiful family and what it means to you as a professional opera singer to have this family, because when we started, people didn't talk about their family and the children, the baby. So please talk to us about that.
I loved Dr. Linda McLean, but one of the things she said to me straight up was like, you cannot have children and you cannot get married. And she told me that, and I was like, yeah, no. I've always wanted to be a mother. I've always wanted to be a wife, but I've always wanted to be a singer. So for me, with my career, I feel I've had a good balance of being able to be at home as well as being able to be on the job. And I've been blessed with that. And I'm blessed to have agents who recognize that too, who are like, Nicole wants to spend some time at home, and they're cognitive of that. For me, having my family is everything. I mean, I love my husband more than anything. I mean, he changed my whole personality when I met him. He calmed me and made me realize that certain things aren't that serious anymore. And what does matter is the love that you have with somebody else. And then my children, they work my nerves. But all in all, they're good kids. And one thing I wanted to do is like when I had my kids, I wanted my kids to not be opera kids. I didn't want them to be little adults, everywhere we went. I wanted them to be children, but be children who were respectful and knew how to act in public. And I think I've done pretty well with that. I can bring them to any gala and they can simply have a conversation with whoever is standing there with them and not seem like they're dumbing it down or talking it up like they're, 18, 20 years old. But no, they're an important part of my life, because the thing is that I want to have something to come home to.
Yes, that's very important.
It makes my career that much more fulfilling to be able to go to another country or another city and meet different people and different cultures and enjoy all of that. But nothing calms my soul than when I turn on the Peak Road and I'm like, I see the YMCA up on the corner and I'm like, dang, I'm almost home. You know, it's like I got to come home to. Now, granted, like literally about 2 hours later, I'm like, shit, why am I not gone? I need to work my nerves.
Right. I'm sure you've had many of those moments doing COVID, like, where's the suitcase? Oh.
but it's a blessing, and I'm very happy to have them.
Yes, they are beautiful, and they are artists in their own right.
Yeah,
you know, we've gotten to see them grow, and you know, Morgan and her beautiful singing, and Julian. He's such a you know, an actor, you know, and
yeah.
And it's just amazing. I mean, I think for so many of us, it's important to see. I can't stress enough, and that's the reason. You know, this is the reason why I started this conversation. Is it's so important for us to see each other differently than just our gift.
Yeah.
You know, and to see our family. And my poor husband, I put him on social media, and he hates it. He hates it. But, you know, but I tell him, like, you know, it's not for you. It's for other people.
You know? I'm going to tell you what a blessing it's been watching your conversations and watching other people's conversations. Because singers that I thought I knew, I didn't know.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And you're sitting there like, really, to me, and this is where I think for all singers who are out there, a lot of times you put certain singers on pedestals and you're always like, well, they have this career and they have everything and everything's going well for them. But then when you talk to them, they have the same insecurities, same issues, same drama as every other singer. It doesn't matter if you're singing at A level, B level, C level, in college, in a YAP, it's all the same. And your conversations have made that real. I mean, I've known Stephanie Blythe for years, and I listened to last week's talk, and I was like, oh, wow. You know, it's like, it's eye-opening, and it's also humanizing, where I think in our career, and I'll say this, you know, especially older singers from the 70s and 80s, it was always like, hello, my name is Nicole Heaston, and I will be singing. And it was this air and this grandeur, which was appropriate for the time.
Yeah.
But we're real people.
We certainly are.
You know?
Yeah.
It's really cool. For me, it's cool to see.
Absolutely. I mean, and we've had this conversation, you and I, about how you couldn't even talk to singers of a certain generation. You had no access to them.
No, none.
You had to write letters to people in hopes that you could even get any kind of response. And so there is this unprecedented access that you have to singers of every level. And, you know, and it's just the resources, and it's just unbelievable. But there was a time you couldn't look people in the eyes. You'd have to be in rehearsals and being like, wanting to talk to your, you know, to your hero, your shiro, and just not having any access to them.
And it was heartbreaking in those situations because you looked up to them and you wanted to know. I found the biggest issue when I was wanting to have my first child, talking to anybody to ask them what it was like. When you say that singers did not know, like when you say you didn't talk about your family, I swear it was like you found out like that somebody even had a kid. They wouldn't talk about him in rehearsal. They wouldn't bring him around, and they'd have one child, and usually sometimes that child would be back in the other country, and they would never even talk about it. And you're just like, I know, because as a person, I wanted to know, how are you doing this? How does this work? You know, what do I need to get? How do I need to talk about this? But no one would even open their mouths to say anything. So when I had my kids, I told any and everybody, I was like, sing this long, sing all the way up to your pregnancy. Because I'm like, someone has to open their mouths and tell people that this is possible.
Yes.
And not be ashamed of your children. I take my children to rehearsals. I take, you know, if they're allowed, I'll bring them to rehearsals. I'll bring them to shows. People in my productions know my kids.
Yes, they sure do.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. Absolutely. The one thing that I hope that you do not lose is the magic of Christmas. We all look forward to the Lane Christmas. And what's the you know, I don't have children, you know, I don't do kids. You know, I'm all about pets. But the little Christmas, the little Santa, the little skinny Santa.
Oh, you mean my elves?
Yes, your elf. Yes, you have
Pep and crew.
Yes, you must keep that going. I know the kids are going to grow up and they're going to be like, whatever. No?
I mean, my kids have my daughter's 16, my son is 14. And when I asked them 2 years ago, and even last year, is it time for Nigel and Pep to stop coming? They were like, oh, no. They're going to want Nigel and Pep until they go to college.
Okay, that's okay.
They enjoy the drama. They get in, they wake up every morning and they try and find them and find out whatever shenanigans they got going on. Because I do a whole Shana. We have a soap opera that goes and follows them through all of Christmas.
I love that.
And to me, it's my favorite part of the year because it's where my husband and I fall in sync and we stay up every night setting up these elaborate sets. And if it's times where I'm like, I want to do this. And my husband will think of a way to make it happen. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. We be tired as all get out, ready, just like brain aneurysm, my eye twitching and stuff by the time I get to Christmas. But it's all worth it because we have a good time.
Exactly. It is definitely worth it. And just know that we appreciate it. Those of us who are on the outside looking in. But what's amazing is that, the kids will keep that tradition going. And then when they have families, and then there'll be grandchildren and all this other stuff. And so that's beautiful. We don't often see Black families in that way. We don't get in the mainstream. So it's beautiful. Y'all keep going. Y'all keep inspiring us, And that brings me to COVID. And talk about what you were doing pre-COVID. And we're going to talk about the Purple Robe series, honey.
Well, pre-COVID, I mean, it was tough. It was tough. I'm a person that can sit around the house and watch TV all the time. But this was different. It was different having everybody in the house. It was different knowing that gigs that I had were being canceled. Gigs I was looking up to.
Did you lose a lot of gigs? Did it lose or they got switched to?
No, they were gone. They're just gone. I mean, well, we're hoping that's like I was supposed to do Thais. And since that's such a big piece and it really doesn't have that many characters, it's just 3 main characters. I'm hoping, and we're all hoping that it can get rescheduled later. But I'm like, Thais ain't something that, that everybody does. So it's like, I spent all that time learning it and getting it into my body only for it to go poof, and it was a Figaro that went away. It was a recital that went away. It was a workshop that went away. It was a lot. But I was cool with it. I was like, it is what it is. I'm not in this boat alone. It is the way the world is going right now. But I felt the need to express myself. And a friend of mine had been posting a 30-day song challenge on her Facebook page. And it was just a little list. And everybody would say, oh, a song with a color. And everybody would put a song that they knew with a color in it. And I was like, I could sing all those songs. I was like, I think, and I just pulled it out. I printed it up. And I just went, and I was like, oh, I could think of a song for this and this. And I said, okay, I'll do it. And really and honestly, the first day, I just sat in front of my husband's desk and I sang. But then the next day, I just was a little more myself, a little more loose and a little more funny. But I washed my hair. And when I washed it, it was curly. And I never get the curly look right. And I was like, I'm looking all cute. The next day, I was looking ratchet. It was just, I looked like
the curls get dry. And it's like,
I was out of a slave movie. I was looking right. So, but I was about to do summertime, and I was like, I don't feel like flat ironing my hair, and I was like, you know what? I'm a new mother. She wouldn't have flat iron hair. She'd look just like this, frazzled, trying to get this baby to stop crying, and I did that, and I had my kids involved, and that kind of set the tone. When my husband was like, "You're willing to go on video with your hair looking like that?" and I'm like, yep, it's quarantine. We're gonna do whatever we want to do now. No, but there's no rules. Nobody can judge me. So I'm gonna do what I want. And that's really the idea I went with for is I am not caring what anybody says. I'm doing what makes me happy. Yeah. And I'm gonna sing every song I want to sing, whether it's a gospel song, a rap song, an art song, or whatever. And I was like, this my house. I'm gonna do what I want to do.
Yes.
And it was liberating to do it.
Well, first of all, it's a whole project to do. I mean, first of all, I want to thank you for giving us that light every day. And then you did it for 3 months, 2 months, 3 months?
I've done 2 months and starting another one August 1st.
Uh-oh. Is this a
The update?
Update? Okay. Yes. Oh my God. I know so many of us are so hyped for that because I was like, oh, Purple Robe, is it gonna go away? And I think I texted you at the first time. I was like, you got to keep going. You got to. What people don't understand, like first of all, it's a family business and it's a project.
Yes, it is. It's a lot to think of a song to do for every day, and then think of ways of making them entertaining. And sometimes I draw my kids in. Sometimes I draw my husband. For my family, it's the worst because my husband is working from home, and literally, I'm like hijacking his office every day. Poor brother is like sitting in a car on a conference call, you know.
Right.
But I love doing it because it gives me something to do every day. And when I'm not doing that, I'm kind of like bored. I like, having something, because when I'm at home and I'm not singing, I'm volunteering all the time. And because I like to keep busy. But unfortunately, a lot of the volunteer opportunities are gone just because of COVID.
Right, exactly.
So where I would be doing certain things, I got some, there we go, I can do that back. Where I would be doing certain things, as a mom when I was home, I don't even have that outlet anymore.
Right. I didn't even think about that. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, that's true. I mean, I haven't left the house in over a week. I know, don't judge me. I love my house. I don't feel like, doing all that. But again, like the places that would have gone normally aren't open. Like if I wanted to go to a coffee shop and memorize music or whatever just to get out, like Target, Trader Joe's, supermarket, like, those are the only things that are open. Now the things are more open now, but
just hang out there.
Yeah, right. It's just a different time. But so during the time of COVID, of course, so many of us have been asked to speak on panels and asked to give our experiences as Black singers, and most of us that have been asked are pretty close, we're really tight. So like, what did that mean? I mean, as someone who has had the career, been to all the places, been in all the spaces, singing with all the people, and to have this time now where everything just kind of, the box opened, like somebody dropped the box and all the stuff falls out. Like, how does that look to you as someone who has done the thing,
It, to me, watching it happen was phenomenal. I loved it. And the reason why I say I love it is because I think there were so many things that were happening to Black singers. It's the same. To me, it felt like it was the Me Too movement for Black people. There were times where women could not say things, and we talked about things in private, and we kept them to ourselves because if we said them out loud, we would be judged or ridiculed or worse. The same thing happened with this, where Black people, and like I said, I think it's because COVID happened and people didn't have anything else to do. And when George Floyd happened, that left that opening for people to finally express and for people to be open to listen to what is actually going on with Black singers and Black people in general. I mean, I was in Aix-en-Provence once, and I was sitting minding my own business, and I was the only American, only Black person in this cast, and all of a sudden, this little girl comes up to me. She was the daughter of one of the singers. And she comes up to me. She's like, Nicole. And I was like, yes. And she goes, Dynamite. And I looked over and all of my colleagues were cracking up. And I looked at them. Because the one I was like, so y'all taught this to this little girl because she ain't seen Good Times.
Right.
Y'all thought that was funny and something that I would find entertaining? There were so many times where I've gone to Italy and literally been hounded by people because they thought I was a prostitute because I was Black and there were no other Black people in the city. And if you were African, you were a prostitute. There are so many times that we've had these stories and we can't say them out. Like I'll say them to you. I'll say them, we'll say it in private. And maybe if I'm with some friends and we're talking about it, we'll discuss it. But it stays small. And no one gets it. But now people are hearing it and they have to get it. I mean, because when the time I was thought to be a prostitute, I thought people were just being nice.
Right.
I was the apartment I was staying at was far out from this place. I was in a small town, Yezi, Italy, and I used to walk, and it was like a 1.5 2 mile walk to work every day. And every day I'd walk it in cars, men would honk and be like, honk, honk. And they were like, Vieni, Vieni. And I'm like, no, thank you. I'm thinking, man, the people in this town are nice. They all want to give me a ride to rehearsal. But no, I'm like, I'm good. I can walk it. I'm good. And then one day I had to go to the grocery store, and I could not find the grocery store. The concierge in my place had told me it's down this street, down here. And I'm like, I don't know where the heck I'm going. One man drove up, and he was like, do you need a ride? And I said, I'm looking for the grocery store. He was like, come. And I was like, no, I'm fine. And then he drove around again. And at this point, I'd been lost long enough. And I looked at him, and he was scrawny and old. And I was like, I can take him if things get wrong. So and so I got in his car like a crazy person. And I put my hand on the door, because I was like, if I got to jump out and roll out of this car, I will.
Right.
And I've been telling everyone at my job how nice everybody was and how they were always telling me to come to their car. No one said a word. But when I got to the grocery store, I leaned in and said, mille grazie, to tell him thank you, and put my hand out. His hand crossed my hand and grabbed my boob and squeezed. And I was like, grazie. And I got the hell out of his car.
Right.
And he was like, do you want me to stay to take you back? I'm like, no, I'm good, thanks. And when I came and told that story to my coworkers, all Italian, they all looked at each other and they're like, we're so sorry, Nicole. The reason that happens because a lot of the Africans here are prostitutes, and you're one of the only Black people in town now. And so then they were like, we'll take you back and forth to rehearsal. And I was like, so y'all, I've talked about this for the last 2-3 weeks. And they never thought to say, they think you're a prostitute. It's like I said, and for a Black woman, a lot of times when you're out of the country, you get a whole different type of racism or color bias. People touching your hair and talking about your skin, and then putting makeup on you where all of a sudden I'm 10 times blacker, or I look like Michael Jackson. It's a lot. So I love the fact that this conversation is being had, that people are getting a chance to voice. Because the thing is, people don't know. If you don't know, you can't sympathize, you can't empathize, and you cannot change. So it's about making a change in this. I think it's wonderful.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you expressed that, because we all know that. I mean, enough with these panels already. They know everything now, but
they do.
They do. Like, don't call me. That's enough. Just give me a job, or hire me to do consulting, or let me help you.
Yeah.
Paid. Can we sip on that?
Yes, money.
Yeah. Just people have bills. But yeah, I mean, that's the reality. I remember being in Vienna, and this guy kept coming over to our table, wanting to buy drinks, and he kept coming up, came like 5 times, and the waitress is like, leave them alone, like leave her alone. And he was like, why don't you come back to the hotel with me? And I'm like, what? I must have been like 27 or whatever, just young. I had no idea, no. And I was just like, oh, is this what it's really gonna be like? So we are thinking about our European brothers and sisters, who are over there, and women, and everybody, experiencing those things. I mean, there's so many things happening in America so quickly, and the rest of the world, they're not going to have the same kind of revolution as the way we are, in America.
When I was another time that I was in Aix-en-Provence working, I pre-September 11th, I used to always carry a knife in my bag.
Yes, Chicago.
It's very Chicago to do so. I was mad when they started confiscating that stuff. I lost a couple of them things at the security desk. But I remember walking home, because it was an outdoor theater, and we would have rehearsals until like midnight and stuff. And I remember walking home with my colleagues, and we got to the bar area, and they'd go one way and I'd go the other. And I'd pull my knife out, and Nicole, what are you doing? This is France. And I was like, I'm about to walk through all of these drunk men. I will be prepared just in case anything jumps off. I said, because people say things to me when I walk by.
Right.
I understand French, so I know what they're saying. So I'm like, no. And they laughed and thought I was being crazy, but I was like, no, I'm still taking out my knife. Goodbye. And I would walk down the street with my knife until I got to my apartment.
Right.
I protect myself.
Exactly. That's the reality. And then you have to go and you have to sing, be extraordinary, carrying all that stuff with you. And that's a real thing,
Yeah.
So like you've sung all the Ina Ana Etta, roles, the Palminas and the, Adinas and the Zerlinas and also, the Alchinas, which I mean, please talk. I want you to talk before I go into. I want to know the other roles that you'd like to sing because you got a chance to sing some juicy roles like Liu.
Yeah.
And and I'm hoping that comes past your desk very quickly. If I got anything to do, it's definitely gonna come past your desk. But talk about roles that you would love to sing and roles that you feel like missed you. Just well, not missed you, but you know what I
I know what you
mean.
mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to sing Suor Angelica. I think
Mhm.
that role is so beautiful. I was never a big Puccini chick until I sang Turandot. When I sang Liu, I was like, because Mimi was lovely. I loved Mimi. But Liu, the role is gorgeous. But it's also listening to everyone else singing around me. I mean, everyone is golden in that show. So it's one of my favorites. I don't know where my voice is going to go next. I mean, there's certain things like, I think an Ariadne would be too big, but I mean, it's a role that I just think is beautiful and it's just such Violetta Ormana did it when I did it at the Met. And I remember sitting there watching her while I was singing, like, she is a goddess. She was fantastic. I want to do some more Puccini. I would like to do Desdemona. I would like to.
Wow, Nicole. Yeah.
That's a stretch, but you never know. You never know. So I like to go into that, but I still love to do a lot of the Baroque pieces. I love creating art with those pieces. I still have never done a Cleopatra, which I would have loved to have done. It would be a fuller Cleopatra, but I still think I love Handel and I love Rameau to do those. It's just they're so well written and so beautiful and so unique that you can create your own artistry in it. So those are my favorites. So
I love the freedom. I mean, I haven't had a lot of opportunity. I did Popea when I was in college, and just haven't had a lot of opportunity to sing early music. But I feel the same way about new works as I do Baroque pieces. Is that you can really make them your own and paint and stamp. And please talk about Alcina. I want you to talk about that experience.
Okay. When I was in Dresden doing Popea, the show was fine. It was a nice production, but I went and saw their production of Alcina, and I literally looked and I was like, "This is the show I should be doing." I said that role right there is a winner. And I walked down the street to a used bookstore and I bought an Alcina score. And a couple of years later, my agent set me up for an audition for Oslo. And I had no idea why I was there because everything they had on their rep list that was coming up was not my wheelhouse. It was like a Tosca and all this big stuff. And I was like, this isn't me. Why am I singing for this man? But when I left, I would walk by him when I finished singing because I sang C'est Pietà from Julius Caesar and Depuis le jour. And I walked past him and he said, "Do you know Alcina?" I said, "No, but I have a score at home and I'm waiting for somebody to pay me to learn it." And he's like, "Okay." And the next day I had that job. And they took I went off to Oslo and I was all excited. I worked on it for like a year and I felt that role in my bones. And I did things that I wouldn't necessarily do. I wouldn't do as a Mozart singer. I wouldn't do it as a Puccini singer. But I was like, I'm singing this the way I feel it. And I identified with this character so much. And when I arrived, nobody wanted me. They wanted a Danish soprano that they had wanted, but the general director was like, "No, I heard Nicole. I want her." And I could feel it in the room. Like I just felt the not negativity, but the guardedness of like, she's not who we wanted. We wanted someone else. But then I opened my mouth and I sang with a freedom that I had never sang with before because I was like, "You don't want me. I'm going to do what I know how to do and I'm going to have fun with it." And when I did, they were like, "Oh." And then like for rehearsals, I was like, rehearsals get out at 4:00 because you're in Oslo and it looks like midnight at 4:00 during the winter. And I was like, I want to stay. I want to work. And I worked with the conductor and the director for like 2 hours after every rehearsal. And I worked that role within an inch of my life. And it was the most satisfying, performance I had ever done in my entire career. Still to this point. And I still say that particular production was because literally there was a connection between myself and the conductor, because he wasn't a traditional conductor. He played violin. And I literally could look at him from the stage and just give him just an eyebrow, and he'd be like, ugh, and he would bring that whole orchestra in, and I could just look gentle, and he'd be like, the two of us, it was like making love musically every night. And I've never experienced that before. And I was devastated when it was over. Devastated. It was so much fun.
Oh, that's one of those once in a lifetime things, because like that just doesn't happen regularly.
It doesn't.
It just doesn't. Who were some of your best collaborators throughout your career that you felt?
I would say Beata Aika, and who was the conductor there, and Francisco Negrin, who was like the bomb. Because I would come and I would just like, I'd go for gusto. And because the thing is when you're an artist, you have to bring something to rehearsal. Yes, you are there to do what the director and the conductor tell you to do. But sometimes when you're first starting off, if they've not said a word to you, you need to come and say, this is what it is. And they can tell you, no, it's not. Or they can tell you, well, maybe, but why don't we pad it with a little bit of this? And I did that with Francisco. And Francisco, he would tell me, no, but let's do this. And I was able to do that for him. And so he saw that I was flexible to not be stuck in what I wanted to do, but also still give the same intention in my soul to what his direction was. And I have to say, recently, Lotte de Beer, she is a fantastic. She's from the Netherlands. She's a director, and like she's she's like one of the new next superstars of young directors. And I loved working with her. I did Di Donne Abbandonata, which is a piece by Jomelli that is based on the Dido and Aeneas story. And the two of us clicked like, I mean, to the point where, because I go home and I think of like, when I'm doing the rest of it, I was like, ooh, if I was directing this, I would want to do it here and change this. And I'd come to rehearsal and she'd say, you should do it here. And I literally looked at her and I said, I literally was thinking this is the exact same thing we should do. The two of us were so simpatico that we didn't have to say anything. And we knew what each of us needed to do in that scene. It was the best. The best. And when I love her, she wants to hire me for everything, and I'm happy to come, because
she's like, bring it on. That's amazing. I mean, so often people are like, oh, what's the worst thing that happened? Oh, these things that happen in rehearsals, but I love how you talk about preparedness and artistry and having a voice outside of your voice, of course, and understanding. I think there's so many young singers don't understand, how to learn, how to listen, because these are things that they don't teach you in school. I don't care what anybody says. I'm sorry for the teachers. I'm sorry, academia, freaking sucks at a lot of levels. I was lucky to be able to go to Curtis, to be able to study under Michael Eliason and like learn so many and all the wonderful teachers I had, and also being curious. Curious. And also, I always say I was always like a puppy with big paws. Like I always just wanted to like do all the things and sing all the things and kind of like express all the things all in one moment. But like, what does it mean to you to be an artist? Like, when you're, I don't know if you teach, I know you mentor, and I know you do talk to younger singers and younger artists. Like, what are you telling them? What are you saying to them? How are you preparing them?
For me, the main thing I always tell singers will always trust your gut. Don't let anyone talk you into doing something that does not fit your voice. I think so many young singers, they get so hung up on when the quote unquote right person says you should be doing this, that you're like, yeah, I should do this. If it doesn't fit up in here, it's not your voice. But the other thing, and I'm sorry, and I say this all the time, the last 5 to 6 years of my career, I keep going to jobs where people come in and don't know their music. And I'm going to say it here publicly in front of everybody. It works my damn nerves. You get paid to come and know your music. That is just what it is. Your contract says to have this learned by the time you arrive. And this is why it's a problem. For me, it's a selfish thing. I'm leaving my family to come and do this production and give it my 100%. But if I have to sit in rehearsal and wait for you to learn the role, you've taken time away from me being at home with my family. I could be at home with my family and I can come to the last rehearsal. Mm-hmm. When you don't know your music, you cannot create art. You can fake it and you can do some things that, sound pretty if you have a beautiful voice but you are not creating art, because the rehearsal process is there for a reason. It's for me to get to know you, you get to know him, us to get to know the conductor, and for us all to come together to make something that is special, not for the audience, for us. Because we are singers and it is in our soul to want to sing together and make something special. And it's hard to make something special when somebody is still forgetting their words at dress rehearsal. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. And I mean, no shade. If anybody is in here and they feel like I'm identifying them, I'm sorry.
If it doesn't apply, scroll down.
If it doesn't apply to you, yay. But it's about art, because the thing is, when we make art, the audience feels it. I feel so much a lot of the time that the people are like, oh, opera's dying, that no one's coming to the audience, to the theater and stuff. But a lot of times, a lot of opera is like water and stir, add water and stir.
Microwave, right.
It reads to the audience and they know they're getting it, but they don't know they're getting it. You know what I'm saying? Because there's times when they see something special and you can tell. You can tell by their reaction at the end and they're like, that was special. You can have the best voice in the world. You can be a great actor. But if everybody on stage is not on the same footing, it reads and it kind of falls just okay. Mm-hmm. And we should all be striving for better than okay.
Yes.
And the first step to doing that is knowing your music. You ain't got to coach everything. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars having a coach, but you can sit there and learn your music so that when you come in, you have an idea of how you want to sing something. How can you have a creative thought in your head of how you're supposed to do it, and you're still trying to remember what your next word is?
It's not possible.
No,
it's not possible.
But
I think that, we need to stress that as often as possible. Particularly, we're just gonna say it. Black artists, when the margin of error is this much. And so it's very important for us to be extraordinary and extraordinary, particularly in our preparation. But again, how do you know what you want to say if you don't even know what the composer has put on the black notes and words that they put on the white page? Like there's no way that you can even reach your full potential and even understand what it is that you want to say, if you just don't understand the basics. And if you need the help, get the help. Like you have a wonderful relationship with Richard Beto. Please talk about that a little bit. Yeah.
Richard Beto, my relationship is just, he's a very, very close and best friend to me. And he was the first person that heard me for the Houston Opera Studio. And, if you work under Richard Beto is very straight-laced and very about business. I knew from him jump street. You don't come ill-prepared to Richard Beto. He will tell you to leave the room. Luckily, I never had to have myself told to leave the room. And when I left the studio, I had a coaching with him, and all of a sudden, I got the relaxed Richard Beto. And he was like, well, your fee for my coachings are going to be this. And I was like, that's a lot of money. He was like, you're going to be making more money soon, so you'll be fine. And so I was like, okay. All right, then. And he's been my primary coach because, like you say, you always need somebody that you trust that's going to have your back and tell you the truth. Mm-hmm. It's times where I come in, Richard will be like, how tired are you today? And he's very honest with me and I'm honest with him. And I mean, it's so funny because people see Richard a certain way, but like I always think of Richard looking down at the floor, watching my children crawl in between the legs of his piano because he's like praying they ain't gonna break his stuff.
Yes.
They did jack up his house a few times. You know, they did do that.
Well, you paid him enough money, so he's okay.
Oh yeah, most definitely, most definitely.
Yeah,
but
I know, Russell. You don't coach. We know, Russell.
We know, Richard. I'm not Rusty. Yes, you don't.
Yes. But I mean, I know for me, like, you know, there's some roles that I just won't. I don't feel like I need to coach. But then there's other things where I'm like, I can't do this on my own. And as I'm getting older, I know that there are things like I have to take to my people, you know, and oftentimes, sometimes the bigger roles I've not had to do back to back. So there'll be times where I'm doing like new works or and then I'll go into singing Tosca, or I'll do something that's like contemporary, and then I have to go sing Aida, and I'm like, oh my God, like, you know, I have to, you know, have that. But yeah.
I think that's another good thing to talk about with young singers as well. The planning of the voice. Just like you said, you may have, you know, a contemporary piece and then have an Aida or something. The voice is the voice. But the placement of where things are going, you have to plan that out, because sometimes you can do things and you're just like literally hammering the voice and lifting up that, you know, that larynx and stuff. Like you need to find that rest sometimes and know what's coming. You know, it was one time I was going to be doing this Baroque piece, and then the next piece I was going to do was I was being offered this contemporary piece that like had high D's and all this stuff, and I was like, and they were like, I went from I'm supposed to go from one to the other, and I had to cancel the other one. I was like, there's no way I'm going to shift from this to that. I said it just won't work. You got to know when to say no to certain things, because just to plan out the voice properly.
Right. Exactly. That's why it's so important to have an intimate relationship with your own instrument, right?
Amen.
You know, to sit, I tell people all the time, yes, it's fine to have a coach, it's fine to all those things, and, you know, do all the things. But if you're not sitting at that keyboard, wherever that is, keyboard, you know, whatever, in that space, in that room, hammering it out, doing the thing, getting to know your instrument, getting to know how you get yourself in and out of situations, out of trouble, because people don't understand, like, that's sometimes in performance, like that's minute to minute sometimes in certain situations, you know. But you have to have that intimate relationship with your instrument, with your gift, to know what it needs, because as you know, someday it wakes up and it's like, no ma'am, I'm not giving you anything today.
At all.
Yeah. So it's important, but that's only you. That's between you and your gift.
Yeah. But you also have to speak up for your gift. Because like I said, sometimes people will tell you things and you'll feel that intimidation of not wanting to say something, afraid that you'll never be asked again. But one thing I remember, what was it? Oh, it was with the symphony here in Houston. They had offered me, I think it was a Costanza. They were doing a concert version of Imperium. And they said, can Nicole do that? And it was, I think, the first time they were asking me to come sing with them, like, ever. And I sat there and I was like, I'll look at it. And I was like, I was like, that's not me. And I told it, and my agent actually told me that they were grateful that I was honest, that it wasn't in my wheelhouse. And then the next season, they offered me something else. So sometimes saying no is not slamming a door. Now, granted, sometimes you get petty people and they will be that way. But again, if that's them, you don't want to work with them.
Right.
But you have to be honest with yourself. I was so excited to finally get a chance to work with the Houston Symphony. I could have just jumped at that and just been like, just trying to pull all this down, you know. But it wasn't me. And I had to say, it's not me. I'm sorry. And they were like, I couldn't believe that they said that. I'm glad she was honest in knowing that it wasn't her.
Right. I think a lot of administrators that I've talked to, at least, are thankful when the managers and the singers are honest, about it, and not just sending people out, and we're like sending ourselves out to be slaughtered, you know, in that way. Because sometimes you can make mistakes and make bad decisions that you're never able to recover from.
Oh, I've seen it. I've seen it.
Oh yes, if you've been in it long enough. Oh, absolutely. Yes, Kevin Shore said wise women. Yes.
Hey, Kevin.
Yeah. So what does the future look like for you, Nicole? Like what ideally, you know, I mean, of course, roles and things that you like to do, but like, you know, you have such a tremendous career. You're having had, whatever that means, you know, a tremendous career. Like, you know, what do you want? If someone said, Nicole Heaston, Lane, what would you like the next 15 years to look like for you? 20 years to look like for you?
I would say the next 5 to 10 years, I still want to be singing and singing wherever. And really and honestly, I'm doing a new Missy Mazzoli piece called The Listeners. And it's my first foray into doing contemporary music after leaving the studio when we used to do them there. I haven't done anything contemporary since I left the studio.
Wow.
And I had a workshop in Philadelphia, and we went in, and I was blown away at how awesome this music was. And the story is crazy, and I love it. And I get to say curse words on stage.
Yeah, you did talk about that. You were like, "Oh, I love this."
I love this. And I went in so nervous, and I told Missy, I said, this isn't my wheelhouse. But after singing the rehearsals, they were like, "Oh no, it's your wheelhouse." And so I'm hoping that actually the next few years of my career is actually getting more opportunities to do more contemporary works, just for the simple fact that it, like you said, it takes you out of the box. It is just like Baroque music. I can sing it how I want it. I can create something. Nobody is going to say, she doesn't sound like Joan Sutherland. She doesn't sound like Kathleen Battle. She don't sound like Leontine Price. They're going to say, I've never heard that before. That's Nicole Heaston.
Yeah.
I think that there is so much promise and excitement in that. So I'm looking for that. Now, after that, I would like to teach. And I've had so many singers come up to me and say, "Hey, do you have voice lessons?" And really and honestly, I don't feel I am qualified at this point. I want to go and study voice. I know, because I can tell people how to sing. I can tell people how to fix this, to make this, and put a little patchwork on it. I do it with my daughter all the time, and I do it with young singers. Because whenever I go to a gig, guaranteed a younger singer will come up to me and be like, "Can I work on this song with you? Or can I work on this part in the opera with you?" And I'm always like, "Sure." And I always do it. Unless it's something where I'm like, if I don't want to mess with you and mess with your mind before a performance. But in general, I will work with anybody. And usually I get results in that. And it's exciting and it's thrilling. And I've done master classes, and that's exciting. But to teach someone to take some young singer in my hands, I want to know that I know the most that I can possibly know, and be able to give them the best information, because I don't want them to waste their money on me.
Right.
And I want them to be able to grow as a singer. So I plan on, in the next few years, getting my education together on that.
Forever the student,
and get my education so that when I'm ready, because my husband always says, he's like, "When you gonna start teaching?" I was like, "I ain't ready. This voice is still got a little shine on it." So I'm like, I'm gonna keep this going until it's time to step back and say what's done. And like, even my kids are in high school now. So it's like, if I start teaching now, doing all that stuff, I'm gone all of the day. And then I would be gone if I'm working, singing someplace else. I want to be home with them as well. Right. So once they're gone and moved on to glory and stuff like that in college, and they got time for me, then I would be thinking about making other transitions in my life to learn.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, people don't speak about that, like how that's another skill set. Just because you're a really good singer, it doesn't make you a really good teacher.
No. And I've had great teachers, and I don't want to do them a disservice, because they did right by me. I always say, Dr. Schiller laid that technique, Patricia Berlin then came in with creativity, and then Stephen Smith got that top together. So I was like, everybody came right where they needed to come.
Yes.
And I was blessed with that. And so I want to give that blessing to somebody else. I don't want to just, put a Band-Aid on something. I want to really understand, and because like sopranos I can easily do, but I need to learn how to really adjust a tenor's voice, or or a baritone. I want to learn.
Exactly. Well, buckle up for tenors, because that's a whole other.
Oh, they crazy.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Like, sorry, y'all. I love you, but somebody asked a question. Gabriel Walker asked a question about, can you talk about being honest with yourself versus being fearful if you're ready or not? That's a question.
That's where I do think you need to have someone you trust. Because fear if you guide yourself by fear, you're always going to be behind the 8 ball. But there are times where, because everyone has that innate fear in them, but to know that you're ready, sometimes it just takes that one person to have that confidence and someone you trust to say, you are ready. Because you may still be like, but I can still work on this. When I sing in my passaggio, it's a little fun. You can always have things to fix. But you got to trust that one person that'll say, I think you're ready, and then go for it. You got to let loose and say, I can't keep preparing. At some point I have to do. Because bottom line is, I still take voice lessons at my age because I still have stuff I need to work on. It doesn't get perfect and you walk away and keep on stepping.
No, it's always working.
It's always working. And the thing is, you got to have the most faith in yourself, because that's one thing I always tell people: never go into a rehearsal apologizing. I always see singers that come in and be like, "Oh, I'm not feeling well today," with all these excuses and stuff. And I'm like, first of all, you're putting a target on your back, because if you got a special conductor, he's gonna cut you after that, because he's gonna realize you're weak, and he will make your life absolutely miserable. I've seen it happen over and over again. But if you come in confident, you're gonna mess up. I mean, I've come in with new roles to rehearsals, and I sing in a wrong note or a wrong word to come out, like, oh, but everything else, I focus back in and put myself back on track. And I've never had anybody put me under their foot, so, except for one conductor, but he just didn't like me, and I was fine with that too. I didn't care for him either. So
Exactly. That's the one thing I've learned how to, and I think Joey Mekovich, always, he's telling me, stop apologizing. Apologizing. He's the first person that like told me that, like, stop saying you're sorry.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I didn't realize I was doing that. And so I just stopped, and I stopped apologizing. Oh, I'm sorry. And I also tell singers, rehearsals are to mess up.
Yeah.
If you don't get comfortable with messing up and trying, because you're trying things and you're trying to get things right, it's not going to magically happen when you get out there on the big stage.
No. And I've seen that where singers will do everything that the conductor or the director is telling them, and then they get on stage and they think it's gonna go showtime. And I'm like, yeah, you can't add all this stuff now. If you wanted to add that, you should have added it during rehearsal, and it could have got worked out. Because I've seen people do that and crash and burn, like, say, I'm gonna all of a sudden sing a high D right here. You never sang that D before, and you didn't sing it now either. Right.
It didn't happen. Dante, my friend Dante, my brother. Can you talk about the great feedback from Lift Every Voice and Sing? Oh my gosh.
Ooh, okay. That was and still tends to be quite overwhelming for me. The Lift Every Voice is Sing, it is literally something that came to me in a dream. It woke me up at 4 a.m. and I said, oh, I want to sing Lift Every Voice and Sing with as many Black people as I can. And I was just like, I left the bedroom, I came and sat on the couch, and I was like, is it possible? Can I do it? And I was like, but nobody will want to sing with me. I literally was like, nobody's gonna want to do this. And I called Kenny Overton and I was like, do you think I could do this? Do you think people will sing with me? He's like, yeah, why not? And I was like, okay. And so I asked Kenny, because everybody I knew was a soprano. So I was like, I need altos. I need, So he helped me get people together. And what happened was it quickly turned into a family of, because there were some people who were brought in that I didn't necessarily know, but now I do know. And like listening to their recordings, I was like, why haven't I heard of you before? You are just awesome. But when it dropped, it was funny because Ryan McKinney I told Ryan everything I wanted. I was very specific. I was like, I want this picture on this word. I want this to fade out of here and this. And I want all these names. I knew what I wanted. I could see my vision, but I was so in it, I couldn't tell what it was. Mm-hmm. And he kept saying, he was like, Nicole, he said, this is going to be awesome. And I was like, you think? I'm like, I don't know. And in the end, it was a quote that actually came at the beginning before the title card. Mm-hmm. And it was, I think it was a James Baldwin quote. And it was one of those things where the very last day before we did it, it was like looking in the mirror and taking off one thing. I said, get rid of the quote. I said, it's got to go right into it. I said, we don't need it. Mm-mm. And once I did that, I was like, okay. But when it dropped and people just were like watching it and sharing it, and I mean, Maestro James Conlon like emailed me to tell me congratulations. It was insane. But it was, for me, it was great to see all these Black people. And I wish I could have had more people. And it was like, afterwards, there were people that I was like, completely forgot I knew this person and I should have asked them. If I could have had everybody on there, I would have. We would have all been the size of the head of a pin.
Right. No one would have been able to see all of us. Yeah.
But the fact, like, once we added George Shirley in, shoot, it was a wrap. At that point, everybody's like, we're with George Shirley.
Yes.
It became its own thing. But just seeing Black singers from George Shirley all the way down to the Twins, seeing singers from all ages and all walks of career, stages of career, I loved seeing that. And it was my vision come to reality. And even when people were just raving about it, I couldn't see it at the first. I was still in the like, well, this could have done. It took me about a week to step back and be like, man, that was kind of nice.
Yeah. Oh, listen. Yes, Sue. It was beautiful. Listen, Kenny, I think, must have texted me or something. And like the emoji with the tears, whatever. And I think I had turned on my phone and my phone was like going off because I think you sent it like in the middle of the night or something like that. And when I saw the first like slide or whatever, the first thing, the tears just kept coming down my eyes. And I swear I must have 1,000 views of just myself watching the video. And I just was like, all my friends and people that I consider family and singers that I've known for years. And some people who I only know their voice, I don't know them personally. And just to see us all come together and that you made that happen. You had that vision, and then Kenny and, Ryan and just made that happen. And Anita, exactly, who's on here as well. Anita. I mean, so I remember because I was like, Nicole, I'm so tired. I cannot do this. I don't know what was going on with me. It was just a lot going on. And Laquita was like, you better make it happen. You better get it in, And so literally, I think up until like midnight, I had recorded a thing, but I beat my face.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God, Karen. You were beautiful. And then you had like a blue background behind you too. I was like, Karen know what's up. She knows what's up. She like, y'all gonna see me.
Okay. Right, exactly. I said, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. But I was exhausted. But when I saw it, I was just like, oh my God, I would have been heartbroken not to be a part of that. But
yeah,
and it just, people were texting me from all over the world and people from my church and people that I know in my life, my outside of the opera life or whatever. I saw the video, and it was just so amazing to see all those beautiful Black opera singers, and people, I didn't even know that there were that many of you guys. I'm like, yeah.
That's what killed that response. I got multiple times saying, I didn't know it was that many Black opera singers. And to me, that says shame on opera companies for choosing the same daggone 5 singers all the time. There are more of us. There are more, girl. I heard that so many times that I didn't know it was that many Black opera singers. I was like, yeah, we're here. Yeah.
We're here, and we singing, and we want to be directors, and we want to be producers, and we want to run companies, and we want to run major, programs, and we're here, and we want to do the thing. We're gonna do the thing. Y'all just gonna have to let the door open.
Yes.
Let it open. Just let it stay open for a little bit longer, because we know.
You can't close it before COVID. Once COVID's over, you can't close it. The door is open. My foot is in the door, blocking it. No. And
right. But
you're right. That I couldn't believe how many times people said that to me. And let me tell you, like even singers were saying that to me. I was like, "You a Black opera singer? What you talking about?" And I mean.
Wow, really?
Oh yeah. I mean, but it was amazing how many people just thought that we don't exist. And that's why I wanted to do it. I wanted to do it because one, I love Roland Carter's version of Lift Every Voice. I've been singing that since I was a kid in the Chicago Children's Choir. It's one of my favorite pieces. I mean, I know, like when it came down to it, I was sitting there like, I got enough sopranos. I think I'm gonna bump myself down to second alto. So I gotta sing those sopranos.
And you had some headers on there in the alto and that soprano one, boy.
I did, but I ended up singing soprano one anyway. I stuck to my guns with that. Mm-hmm. But what I loved about the whole process was the process of it. Because I remember it was at one point where everybody was like, man, this is hard singing this piece. Oh, my voice might. And I sat there and I started getting sad. I was like, everybody's complaining. And I was like, no, they ain't complaining. They're just Black folks talking mess. I was
like, it's so hard. It's like, oh,
exactly. And the thing is what I loved is that like on the little page we made, everybody was like putting up blooper reels of their performance. It was so much love and fun on that page that made it so much more enjoyable. So it was the whole thing. I mean, it was like a week and a half of doing it, and it was really a blessing and a lot of fun. It was stressful, but it was good.
For producing, being the head leader is not. It's like, you know, being the leader of herding cats. You know, like, you know, everybody doing the thing. So Oh, so is there anything you wanna I mean, we're almost I mean, listen, I could talk to you forever. I could talk to you forever, and you could stay as long as you want, but you know, I mean, is there anything else that you want to share with us, Miss Heaston Lane?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know, we just talked and talked.
Yes, we did. We did. I mean, anybody got any questions out there?
Yeah, y'all got questions. I know y'all got questions.
Oh, it's Kelly Day. I love you, Kelly Day. You don't know me. I love you.
Yes, Lisa, honey, that one right there, that singing fool. I've also had the pleasure of singing with her with the American Spiritual Ensemble, Dr. McCorvey's group. And Kalisa and I will hold down a second soprano. You know, we're second sopranos. And that thing, that throat, that voice, that magnificent, you know, being, art, you know, music, that she is music to me.
Yeah, she is. And see me, that's what I'm talking about. Like that video, every video she's put out, but that one where she put out, what was the song she was singing? Where she went from the stratosphere all the way down to the basement.
Callie, was it Hear My Prayer? Was it Hear My Prayer, or was it? She'll tell us.
Oh, whatever. I listen to that all the time, but that to me was an artist. Come on, Callie, tell us what that song was in.
Yeah, I know somebody knows when she went viral, honey. 10 million, whatever it was, views.
Insane beauty, insane gift. But that to me, that's her being an artist. I could sit there and drop a mic and say, or drop the needle and say, that's Kelly Day.
Instantly, you know that voice.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful thing. You know, I just encourage people to just, you know, figure out what you want to do during this doggone COVID, because this COVID, it's going to be here for a minute. So you got to find a way to give your blessings that God has given you and still share them as much as you can. Because like I said, we got to keep our foot in the door. So when COVID is over, we can still walk through.
Absolutely. Set yourself up now. Listen, you know, whatever you need to do to elevate to the next level, whatever that is for you, make it happen. And sometimes you try some things and it don't work, keep going.
Yeah,
you know, keep going until you find your thing, you know, because those of us who make who continue to always not reinvent ourselves, I hate to say that, but keeping the wheels turning, you know, will be the ones to see the end, you know, the end results of all of the hard work. But somebody asked about your lipstick. What lipstick are you wearing?
Oh, it's a MAC lipstick. I forgot the name. It's Model Endeavors. How do I remember that name? It's Model Endeavors.
Right. It looks good purple. Yeah, I'm wearing a NARS lip thing, but I forgot the name of it, but it's NARS. Normally I'm a Fenty girl, but or even a Wet n Wild. You know, we get high low. We do high low. We do high low, but tonight is NARS. This is for you. I went into Sephora yesterday, and I was like, I got to find me a new brand for Miss Heaston Lane, honey.
Oh, your lips are always perfection to me. I love them every time. Like I say, my lips don't look like that. See, they look all crackled and stuff. Your stuff looks like smooth.
No, you are so gorgeous. Okay, to cut it out. Anybody have any more questions? Tell Nicole. Oh, Brad Kennard from San Francisco said hi.
Hey, Bradley.
Yes, he said. Yes, I could tell Nicole. I said thank you for singing the Countess in San Francisco. She was stunning. I got on the plane, honey, to go see that thing thing. Just gorgeous.
And you know what? And I appreciated you coming, because I have, you know, when you asked me about lows in my career, that was not like going into that was almost slightly a low, because I had sang it. I had been at San Francisco Opera and I covered Tracy Dahl as Oscar. And then I never got asked back. And I remember the year that they had posted, you know, who was coming to San Francisco. Because, you know, I always look and see who's going where and what they're doing. And I saw that Michael Samuel was doing Figaro and Janine DeBeek were doing Susanna. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, man. I said, I would have been a good countess for that. I was like, but they didn't ask me. So, and I was hurt, you know. I mean, not hurt. You know, I was just like, how come nobody asked me? You know?
Yeah.
And when my agent called and said, hey, Nicole, I know you're busy because I went to see Porgy and Bess at the Met, and I had a recital in Chicago, and I was flying back and forth between that and a concert I did with Lenny Pulliam in Nashville, Memphis. I saw
that. Yeah.
Like every day I was going someplace, and my agent was like, "Are you free to jump into a gig?" I was like, "What is it?" He said, "Oh, it's Countess." I was like, "Yeah, of course." I said, "I can do Countess anytime." I said, "Where?" And he said, San Francisco. I was like, hell yeah. What are you talking about?
Exactly. Like, how many years has it been? Had it been?
Oh, way too many years. Because I ain't saying Oscar in a hot minute, okay?
Mm-hmm.
That was a different voice.
Many years.
But when they called, I was, like I said, I went back to Chicago. I still studied with Stephen Smith. Mm-hmm. And I was going to study with Thais with him. Because that was coming up, and I was like, I want to get this Thais right. But when that came up, I was like, no. And it's like I always say, even though I'd sang Countess a ton of times at that point, I wanted that fine tuning. So I went to my voice teacher. Mm-hmm. And I was driving down Lakeshore Drive, and I was talking to Anita because I was like trying to get everything planned. And all of a sudden, I just started crying. And I said, what if I'm not good enough? And she said, who am I talking to? Is this Nicole? And I was like, they didn't want me in the first place. So what if I'm not good enough? And she said, you are good enough. Get over yourself. Now, I didn't get over myself by the time I got to my destination in Northwestern. Mm-hmm. And I went in, and when I went to that first rehearsal, it was supposed to just be me and the conductor. I went in, it was every single administrator, every coach, every this. And I'm like looking around the room like, well, you better sing it right or they're going to get rid of you now. And I sang a few notes, and then everybody left. And I was like, well, I guess everything was fine. Because I had to jump in. I think I had 2 days of rehearsal before the show opened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was very tight.
It was super tight. Yeah. And, and Michael Cavanaugh, I loved him too. That's another one who I loved collaborating with. I just, I hate that I didn't get to really collaborate with him. It was more crunch time with us.
Right, of course.
But he was somebody who we're like that as well. Mm-hmm. And I really enjoyed him a lot. But I wish I could have been there for the rehearsal period to actually learn from him. Even though I've done Countess many times, I like learning from new directors and new conductors. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So I didn't get that experience. Mine was a baptism by fire. It was like, get your behind out there and sing. And I did. And I had a great time. And it was wonderful for the first time in my life to be sitting there in that very first scene after Por Amor and have Michael walk on. And it's me and Janine and Michael. And I'm like, it's 3 Black folks singing this at San Francisco Opera. I talked this into the ether a year and a half ago.
See? Woo! I know God changed water to wine, so we're going to just give it up.
Water to wine, baby.
Water to wine. Listen, kid, if you put it out in the atmosphere, you write it down, you do whatever, you just never know that God's blessing. Because I always say nothing that is for you will pass you by.
No.
And we have to hold on to that so tight that anything that is for you is meant for you.
Yeah, and I'm hoping San Francisco brings me back at some point. I would love to come back there and sing that because I love singing there. I love San Francisco. Mm-hmm. It was so much fun, and it was a great production. I mean, it was a funny production.
Yeah, it was excellent. I would love to go back. I was an Adler fellow. I would love to go back. Matthew Shilbach and Greg Henkel.
Ding, 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 ding.
I would love to go back to my home company. Yeah. I'm almost out of wine. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Have us back. Somebody, let's see. Oh, Michael Priestley had a question about how much your CCM experience, like Kenwood experiences, impact your career.
My Kenwood and my CCM?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, I could say my Kenwood experience completely impacted my career because I wouldn't have one if I didn't go to Kenwood. I would be a lawyer right now. I would not, if I had not experienced Lena McLean literally saying you're an opera singer and making me do the NAACP AXO competition twice, I would not, the thought of being an opera singer never, I always look at people like you and Kenny and Eric Owens and stuff, people who like lived and breathed classical music and opera when they were young. I didn't think we did stuff like that. I really did. You know, when I saw Leontine Price in that United Negro College Fund commercial, to me, she sounded like, I mean, a better version, but she sounded like the ladies who sing in my church. We had the sanctuary choir and they sang classical rap. So I knew classical rap, but I didn't think that we sang that. All I saw was Luciano Pavarotti. It was old white men, big fat white men who were singing opera. It wasn't black folks. She just sounded like a lady from my church, but she was rocking. I knew she was jamming. But I didn't think that was for me. So if I hadn't gone to Kenwood, no.
No, right.
Cincinnati, I would say I found one of my dearest and best friends, Adrian Damage, there. And let me tell you, when we were there, we were the only, well, no, it was another a black girl there, Elizabeth, Lizzie. Yes, oh my God. Because she's not singing anymore, so I don't get a chance to see her a lot. But Adrian and I immediately clicked. And people couldn't understand it. They're like, you all are both sopranos. You guys are, I mean, people were literally like, you should hate each other. But I was like, no. I was able to pick up the music to Mitradi so easily because I would sit in rehearsal rooms with her, listening to her singing and giving her critiques, and she would hear me singing my stuff and giving critiques. When I did my debut at Carnegie Hall, my voice teacher was there, but I invited Adrian Damridge. And Adrian was sitting in the back, and she had, you know, little things, because I'd be like, Adrian, what you think? And so my teacher kept looking back. He was like, come up here with me. And he was like, you're saying good stuff. I was like, I always say Adrian should be a teacher, should be one of the best teachers on the planet.
Yes.
And, but that experience of having that sister with me, because I didn't have a sister with me. Like I had my sorority sisters when I was at the University of Akron, but nobody in the music building. Having her in that with me, we were in the trenches together. That was my girl. And it was so weird to have people think that we should be against each other because we were sopranos and we were black. And I was like, even if we did or didn't sing the same rep, I'm here to support her.
Yes.
And she's here to support me. And it's always been that way. I can call on Drain for anything and she'll call on me.
Yes.
And to have that sisterhood is amazing in this career because some people just totally think the Sopranos should all hate each other.
Right. And this is not true. Right.
No, not at all.
No. I just want to say, you know, as we're closing out, you know, relationships, networking, sisterhoods, you know, brotherhoods, all those things. I really hope that we embrace those things even more. You know, my agent did a panel talk about, you know, how the Black community, is so close in our industry, or what the appearance is in other communities in this industry, that the Black community is so close by, how they see Porgy and Bess. And if you had an opportunity to be in an opera where there's an all Black cast or mostly Black cast, you understand the dynamic of that. And so, but even outside of the, you know, the color issue, like, you know, we must understand that networking, relationships, you know, the brotherhoods and the sisterhoods that's the only way we're going to thrive.
Oh, most definitely.
You know, and that they are very important, and being kind to people and building these relationships are oftentimes how you survive and stay in the industry, because the person that you're sitting with or standing with will be the person later on who gives you a job or helps you with your voice, or, you know, is your coach or whomever. And I can't stress enough about how important those things are, you know, and what we do.
You know, to me, like I said, when you came out to see me in San Francisco to do that, I was more nervous with you in the audience than any performance. What? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because, how do I say this? It's one thing to sing for people. Like, when I sing for my husband, he's in the audience, my kids, it's always same. But like, you were coming and you were my friend and my colleague and my sister. And I wanted to be good for you. Because as a Black person, I want you to be proud of me.
Yes.
Because when I go, I want to be proud of you.
Mm-hmm.
And it meant a lot. And when you talk about sisterhood, when you said you was coming to play, I was like, I said that girl coming all the way out here to see me do this.
I sure was.
All right now, you know.
I wasn't gonna miss that. Mm-mm.
And Anita Johnson is another sister in song. And like when Porgy and Bess was coming up, she's like, oh, she said Angel and all them doing this. She said, we rolling. She said, we're getting, I was like, we've seen a lot of Porgy. She's like, no, we've seen this Porgy.
Yeah.
We are going to be, and I was so glad to be in that space to just see all of that on stage. And the thing is, we were like in the second row, so we got a chance to just see everybody up close and see that there has to be connection and camaraderie and respect for all of us, for us to survive and to thrive in this. Because like you said, the next person may be somebody that hires you. It may be somebody that will speak on your behalf. Because the last thing you want is somebody to speak to your detriment. And especially us. That's what I always tell people. I say, if it's somebody Black that wants to sit there and be my Facebook friend, sure. I sit there, I'm like, who do they know? Oh yeah, I said click, because I'm like, I get introduced to so many different people, and you get a chance to, one, for them to see what you're doing and how you're surviving your career, that will hopefully encourage them to follow their own path and to realize that this is, it's possible to get married. It's possible to have kids. It's possible to have cats. It's possible. You know what I'm saying? It's good for people to see that, because like I said, I didn't grow up in this career having people who were out there reaching out to me or being available to me to see that what they were doing and how they were maneuvering it. Everything from taxes to marriage to children to repertoire, all of that stuff. We were on our own. And I feel that there's something to be said about sisterhood and brotherhood and supporting each other through this career. Because if not, what are we here for?
What are we here for? Nothing. Nicole Heaston. Well, before I say my adieu, I have to pitch. Madison Opera is doing their Opera in the Park Saturday. Well, because we're not in the park. Wonderful Madison Opera just, has allowed us to do a virtual concert. So please tune in on Saturday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, and you can see me holla a little bit, and my wonderful colleagues, Jasmine Hambersham, and Anthea Costa, my friend for many years, Weston Hurt, Scott Jindal, Maestro Domain, conducting a little something. And so please tune in to that. I'll post a link or whatever on Saturday, and so you guys can come. So that'll be exciting. Be kind and don't make a review. Okay, just enjoy it. All right, eat the cake and like it. Okay. I know that's a whole nother conversation. But anyway, Nicole Heaston, I love you. I love you, my sister.
Love you too, Mama.
Thank you for coming on, and you have to come back.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. We'll find us something juicy or something to have you come back and do something. Thank you all for coming as well. Always.
Thank you for tuning in.
Yes, my Kiki Convos crew. We had a really great audience, and please share this video. I leave them on. I make them available for as many people, and I post them on YouTube shortly after we're done. Just so people can have access to them. So many young singers, so many administrators in this industry, hire my girl for whatever she wants to sing. Come on now, let's tell the truth. I love y'all, and I will see y'all next Thursday. But again, I'll see you on Saturday, right?
Yes.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Have a good night. Thanks, Karen.
Of course. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Juicy.